I knew something was wrong the moment Derek touched the small of April's back. It was such a tiny gesture, his fingers barely grazing the midnight blue silk of her dress. But in that half second, everything inside me went cold. My champagne turned bitter on my tongue. The glittering ballroom of the Westwood Hotel, packed with Silicon Valley's elite celebrating our company's 5th anniversary, suddenly felt airless. My brother never touched women like that in public. Not casually, not possessively. Not unless... "You okay, Rem?" Diego appeared at my elbow, his voice cutting through the jazz quartet's rendition of something classical I should probably recognize. "You look like you just found a bug in your code." I forced a smile. "Just wondering if I should fire our event planner. $300 per plate and they're serving lukewarm salmon." Diego laughed, but his eyes, always too perceptive, lingered on my face. I turned away, tracking my brother and best friend as they navigated through the crowd. April's hand rested on Derek's forearm, her head tilted toward him in that specific way she had when she was truly listening to someone. I'd seen that tilt thousands of times, during late-night study sessions in college, through tears after breakups, over countless brunches dissecting our lives. But never with my brother. Never with that particular softness in her eyes. "Ladies and gentlemen," Derek's voice boomed through the microphone at the front of the room. "My brother, the face of McDonald Tech, the charismatic CEO to my behind-the-scenes CTO. If I could have your attention for just a moment." The room quieted. I gripped my glass tighter. 5 years ago, my brilliant sister Remington and I had nothing but a prototype and a prayer. He flashed that signature smile that had charmed investors out of millions. Tonight, we celebrate hitting $1 billion valuation. Applause erupted. I should have been elated. This was everything we'd worked for since I wrote the first line of code in our shared apartment, surviving on ramen and determination. But tonight isn't just about business milestones. Derek's voice softened as he extended his hand. April stepped forward, her fingers interlacing with his. Sometimes the greatest partnerships aren't just professional. My stomach dropped. April has agreed to marry me. The room exploded in cheers. Glasses clinked. Someone popped another bottle of champagne. I stood frozen, a statue among the celebration, as April, my roommate of 6 years, my confidant, the person who'd held my hair back through food poisoning and heartbreak, beamed up at my brother with undisguised adoration. The same look she'd given me 3 months ago when she'd squeezed my hand and whispered, "I think I'm falling for someone, Rem. It's terrifying." I'd been happy for her. I'd asked for details she wouldn't give. I'd respected her privacy. What a fucking fool I'd been. "Did you know?" Diego murmured beside me. I shook my head, unable to form words as I watched Derek slide a ring onto April's finger. The diamond caught the light, throwing prisms across the room. I recognized that ring. The setting. The cut. It was identical to the one I'd helped him choose for his ex-fiancée 2 years ago. The one he'd asked me to return when she'd broken things off. He hadn't returned it. He'd kept it. For April. My glass trembled in my hand. I set it down before anyone could notice. "Remington." Derek's voice cut through my thoughts. "Where's my sister? Come up here." Bodies shifted, creating a path. Somehow my legs carried me forward. Somehow my face arranged itself into something resembling joy. "The woman without whom none of this would be possible," Derek announced, pulling me into a hug that felt like a straitjacket. "The brain behind the beauty." The crowd laughed. I'd heard variations of this joke for years. Derek the face, me the mind. It had never bothered me until this moment, when it felt like the final reduction of my existence. April hugged me next, her familiar jasmine perfume now a sickening cloud. "I wanted to tell you," she whispered. "He made me promise to keep it secret." I pulled back, searching her face for any hint of remorse, any acknowledgement of the magnitude of this betrayal. But all I saw was happiness tinged with mild discomfort, the look of someone who hopes an awkward moment will pass quickly. "Congratulations," I said, the word tasting like ash. Later, as guests began to leave, Derek cornered me by the bar. "You seemed surprised," he said, loosening his tie. "I thought you'd be happy for us." "When did it start?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. "Does it matter?" He signaled the bartender for another scotch. "It happened. We're happy." She was my best friend before she was your girlfriend, and now she'll be your sister." He smiled, reaching into his pocket. "I got you something. A thank you for everything." He pressed a small velvet box into my palm. Inside lay a ring, a perfect miniature of April's engagement ring. "Matching set," he said, "for the two most important women in my life." I stared at the ring, identical to the one now adorning April's finger, identical to the one he'd bought for another woman. A duplicate, a stand-in, a symbol of how little either of us truly meant to him. "It's beautiful," I lied, snapping the box closed. In that moment, something crystallized inside me, a cold, clear purpose that cut through the hurt and betrayal. Derek had built his success on my code, his reputation on my work. He'd taken my friend, and now he thought he could buy my complicity with a recycled ring. I slipped the box into my clutch, already calculating exactly how I would make him pay. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw April's fingers intertwined with Derek's, her diamond catching the light, that look of adoration on her face that used to be reserved for me. Her chosen family, her confidant, her person. Dawn broke with me, still sitting on my balcony, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the San Francisco skyline as it emerged from darkness. The velvet box with Derek's insulting gift sat open on the table beside me, the duplicate ring glinting dully in the gray morning light. My phone buzzed for the 12th time. April again. I'd ignored her texts since leaving the gala, each one more desperate than the last. "Please talk to me. I know you're upset. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I love you both. Love." The word made me want to throw my phone off the balcony. Instead, I picked up the ring, turning it over in my palm. It wasn't just similar to April's. It was identical. Same cut, same setting, same tiny imperfection in the band that I'd pointed out to Derek when he'd bought it the first time. He hadn't even bothered to get a new one. My doorbell rang, startling me. I knew who it was before checking the security camera. April stood in my hallway, still wearing last night's makeup, her hair pulled into a messy bun. She'd changed into jeans and a sweater. My sweater, actually, one she'd borrowed months ago. I considered not answering, but the thought of her standing there, thinking I was too broken to face her, made something hard and angry solidify in my chest. "You look like shit," I said, opening the door. "I've been up all night trying to reach you." Her eyes were red-rimmed, but I couldn't tell if it was from crying or lack of sleep. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside, watching as she moved through my apartment with the familiarity of someone who'd spent countless weekends here, who knew which cabinet held the mugs and where I kept the good coffee. "I'm making us coffee," she announced, as if this were any normal morning after any normal night. "When did it start?" I asked, the same question I'd asked Derek. Unlike my brother, April flinched. 3 months ago. The timeline clicked into place. "When you told me you were falling for someone. When I stayed up with you until 3 a.m. talking about whether you should tell him how you felt." She nodded, measuring coffee into the filter. "You were talking about my brother, and you didn't think that was something I should know. I wanted to tell you." The coffee maker gurgled to life. "But Derek thought," I repeated. "Since when do you let someone else decide what you tell me?" "It wasn't like that." She turned to face me, leaning against the counter. "We were worried about how you'd react. You've always been so protective of him, and after what happened with Elise..." "Don't." My voice cut like glass. "Don't you dare bring up Elise." Elise, Derek's ex-fiancée. The woman who'd left him devastated 2 years ago. The woman whose ring now sat on April's finger. "He was broken after she left," April continued, ignoring my warning. "You saw what it did to him. We didn't want to risk anything until we were sure. So instead you lied. For 3 months. We didn't lie." "Omission is lying, April." The words exploded out of me. Every brunch, every movie night, every time you asked about his schedule or how he was doing, you were lying to my face. She flinched again. "I'm sorry. We handled it badly." "We." The word hung between us. No longer April and Remington against the world. Now April and Derek, with me on the outside. "There's something else you should know," she said quietly, pouring coffee into mugs with shaking hands. "I'm joining the executive team. Derek's creating a chief marketing officer position for me." The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. You're joking. I start next week. The board already approved it. The board. My laugh sounded hollow, even to my own ears. The board that my brother controls. The board that wasn't informed of your relationship before voting on your appointment. My qualifications. Your qualifications are a marketing degree and 3 years at an agency before you quit to find yourself. I snapped. The only thing you've marketed in the last 2 years is your Instagram travel blog. Her face hardened. That's not fair. Fair. I grabbed my laptop from the counter, pulling up our company's shared drive. Let me show you what's not fair. I turned the screen toward her, displaying a folder labeled Executive Restructuring that I'd never seen before. Inside were documents dated weeks ago. April's employment contract, a revised organizational chart, a press release announcing her appointment that mentioned our shared vision for the company's future. He's been planning this for months, I said, creating a C-suite position for his girlfriend without consulting his co-founder. That's what's not fair. April stared at the screen, her expression shifting from defensiveness to something like guilt. I didn't know he hadn't discussed it with you. Of course you didn't. I closed the laptop. Because you only heard his version, like always. She reached for my hand across the counter. I pulled away. Rem, please, I love him. But I love you too. You're my best friend. Was, I corrected, a cold clarity washing over me. I was your best friend. In that moment, looking at her familiar face now transformed into something unrecognizable by betrayal, I made my decision. This wasn't just about a relationship betrayal anymore. This was about my company, my creation, my legacy. I think you should go, I said quietly. As the door closed behind her, I opened my laptop again, fingers flying across the keyboard. If Derek wanted to play corporate chess, he'd find I was already 3 moves ahead. My home office had always been my sanctuary, a place where logic reigned, where problems had solutions, where I could lose myself in the elegant simplicity of code. Now it was my war room. 3 days had passed since the gala, 3 days of ignoring calls from Derek and April, 3 days of digging through company files, financial records, board minutes, anything that might give me leverage. I hadn't slept more than 4 hours a night. Empty coffee mugs crowded my desk. The blinds stayed closed, creating an artificial twilight that made time irrelevant. There was only the work, the plan, the code. My fingers flew across the keyboard, creating a back door into our company's messaging system. Not technically illegal, I'd built the damn thing after all, but definitely in an ethical gray area. I didn't care. Ethics hadn't stopped my brother from betraying me. A notification popped up on my screen. Diego requesting a video call. I hesitated, then accepted. His face appeared, concern etched across his features. You missed the product meeting, he said without preamble. That's not like you. I'm working on something more important. I didn't elaborate. Diego leaned closer to his camera. You look terrible. Thanks. I ran a hand through my unwashed hair. Always nice to hear. I'm serious, Rem. Are you okay? The genuine worry in his voice almost cracked my armor. Almost. I'm fine, I lied. Just busy. This is about Derek and April, isn't it? When I didn't respond, he sighed. Everyone's talking about it. The engagement, her new position. What are they saying? I couldn't help asking. That it's nepotism, that the board rolled over because Derek controls the votes. He paused. That you must have approved it. I laughed, a harsh sound that scraped my throat. Of course they think that. Why wouldn't Derek's puppet sister approve his every decision? No one thinks you're his puppet, don't they? I pushed back from my desk. For 5 years, I've let him be the face while I built everything from the ground up. The architecture, the algorithms, the patents, all mine. But who gets the credit? Who makes the decisions? Who just appointed his fiancée to a made-up C-suite position without consulting me? Diego was quiet for a moment. What are you planning, Remington? I stared at him through the screen. Diego had always been perceptive. Too perceptive. We'd met as competitors at a hackathon years ago before he founded his own startup. Now our companies often vied for the same clients, but we'd maintained a strange friendship built on mutual respect. Nothing that concerns you, I said finally. If you're going after Derek, it concerns me. His voice lowered. He's not just your brother, he's your business partner. Anything you do affects the whole ecosystem. Maybe the ecosystem needs a forest fire. Diego's expression darkened. Be careful. Derek has friends in high places. So do I. Do you? The question hung between us. When was the last time you cultivated a relationship that wasn't through Derek or April? The truth of his words stung. I'd been so focused on building our company that I'd let my brother handle the networking, the investor dinners, the industry events. I'd told myself it was because I preferred coding to schmoozing, but maybe I'd just been hiding. I have to go, I said, reaching for the disconnect button. Wait. Diego leaned forward. Whatever you're planning, don't do it alone. That's all I'm saying. The screen went black before I could respond. I sat in silence, his words echoing in my head. Don't do it alone. But who could I trust? April had been my person, and look how that turned out. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We should talk. About your brother. About April. About what they're really planning. Lindsay, Derek's executive assistant, the quiet, efficient woman who scheduled his meetings, managed his calendar, probably knew more about the inner workings of our company than anyone except Derek and me. I hesitated only briefly before responding. When and where? 20 minutes later, I was sitting in a corner booth at a coffee shop 6 blocks from our office, nursing an Americano and watching the door. Lindsay entered precisely on time, her usual professional demeanor intact, despite the casual setting. Thank you for meeting me, she said, sliding into the booth. No coffee, no pleasantries. What do they have planned that I don't know about? I asked. Lindsay glanced around before leaning forward. They're pushing for an acquisition. Nexus Tech has made an offer. My blood ran cold. Nexus Tech, our biggest competitor, the company that had been trying to poach our talent for years. Derek would never sell, I said automatically. He's always said we'd go public. That was before April, before the board appointments he's planning. She pulled out her phone, showing me an email. He's restructuring the board next quarter. 3 new members, all with ties to Nexus. I stared at the names, recognizing 2 of them as former Nexus executives. He can't do this without my approval. I have equal voting rights. On paper, yes. Lindsay's expression was grim. But he's been meeting with lawyers, looking for loopholes in your partnership agreement. Why are you telling me this? I asked, suddenly suspicious. You're his assistant. I was his assistant, she corrected. As of this morning, I've been reassigned to April's team. Apparently, I'm not the right fit for the direction he's taking. The bitterness in her voice was unmistakable. There's more, she continued. The code you wrote for Project Artemis, he's claiming primary authorship in the patent applications. Something snapped inside me. Project Artemis was my baby, the neural network algorithm I'd spent 2 years perfecting, the innovation that had catapulted our valuation into the billions. I need proof, I said, my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. Documents, emails, anything that shows what he's planning? Lindsay nodded. I can get you what you need. But be careful. If he realizes what you're doing. He won't, I said, a plan already forming. Because he still thinks I'm the same sister who's always stood in his shadow. He has no idea what I'm capable of when I step into the light. The McDonald Tech headquarters always reminded me of a glass beehive. Transparent walls, constant motion, the low hum of collective ambition. It had been my second home for 5 years. Today, it felt like enemy territory. I stepped off the elevator onto the executive floor, nodding at familiar faces while cataloging their reactions. Some offered sympathetic smiles. Others averted their eyes. News traveled fast in tech circles, and everyone knew about Derek and April by now. Remington, Norman, our CFO, emerged from the conference room. Good to see you. We missed you at the budget meeting yesterday. Had some personal matters to handle, I said, forcing a smile. Norman had been with us since the beginning, one of the few executives Derek hadn't personally selected. Anything I should know? Nothing urgent. His eyes darted toward Derek's office. Though your brother's been making some interesting financial projections for next quarter. Interesting how? Norman lowered his voice. Significant reduction in R&D spending. Increase in executive compensation. The kind of adjustments you make when you're dressing up a company for sale. My stomach tightened. Lindsay's information was proving accurate. Thanks for the heads up, I said. We should catch up properly soon. My door's always open. He squeezed my shoulder before walking away. I continued down the hallway, passing April's new office, formerly our chief product officer's space before Derek had abruptly relocated him to a smaller office last week. The door was open, revealing April arranging framed photos on her desk. One caught my eye. April and me at Ocean Beach last summer, laughing as waves crashed around our knees. The sight of it made my chest ache. I kept walking. Derek's assistant, not Lindsay anymore, but a young man I didn't recognize, looked up as I approached. "Ms. McDonald, do you have an appointment?" "I don't need one," I said, pushing past him toward Derek's door. My brother was on a call, feet propped on his desk, that trademark charismatic smile on his face even though the other party couldn't see him. The smile faltered when he spotted me. "Jim, I'll have to call you back," he said, hanging up. "Rem, this is a surprise." "Is it?" I closed the door behind me. "Your co-founder showing up at the company she helped build? Shocking." Derek's expression shifted to the conciliatory look he used when smoothing over investor concerns. "You've been off-grid for days. I was worried." "Worried I might find out what you've been planning with Nexus Tech?" His face gave nothing away, but his fingers tapped once on his desk, a tell he'd had since childhood. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't insult my intelligence." I tossed a folder onto his desk. "Board restructuring, patent reassignments, acquisition talks. You've been busy." Derek flipped through the documents, his jaw tightening. "Where did you get these?" "Does it matter? They're real, aren't they?" He leaned back, studying me. "It's a good deal, Rem. Nexus is offering 3 times our current valuation." "This was never about money for me," I said. "This is about building something that matters. It's always about money eventually." He stood, moving to the window overlooking San Francisco. "We've taken this company as far as we can. It's time to cash out. We've barely scratched the surface of what Artemis can do." "Artemis." He turned back to me. "Your precious algorithm. The one you think will change the world." "The one I built," I corrected. "The one you're trying to claim credit for." "I'm the CEO. Everything created under this roof has my name on it. That's not how it works, and you know it." I stepped closer. "Why are you doing this?" "We had a plan. Build, scale, IPO. What changed?" For a moment, something like regret flickered across his face. "Plans change. People change." "April changed you?" "Don't bring her into this." His voice hardened. "This is business." "Is it?" "Because it feels personal. It feels like you're systematically removing me from the company I co-founded." Derek returned to his desk, straightening the documents I'd thrown there. "You're being paranoid. No one's removing you." "Then explain the board restructuring. Explain why you're reassigning patents that should have my name on them." "Insurance," he said simply, "in case we disagree on the direction of the company." "Like we're disagreeing now?" "Exactly like that." He met my gaze directly. "I need to know you're with me on this, Rem. The Nexus deal is happening. You can be part of it, or the unspoken threat hung between us." "Or what?" I asked quietly. "You'll force me out of my own company?" "I'd prefer not to." His tone was almost gentle. "You're my sister. We built this together." "Then act like it." I turned to leave, then paused. "By the way, I met your new assistant. Where's Lindsay?" "Reassigned to April's team." He shrugged. "She wasn't a good fit anymore." Funny how people stop being a good fit when they know too much. I left before he could respond, heart hammering in my chest. In the hallway, I nearly collided with Jasmine, our VP of Business Development, and one of the few executives I genuinely respected. "Whoa, where's the fire?" she asked, steadying me. "Sorry, just..." I gestured vaguely toward Derek's office. Understanding dawned on her face. "Ah, brother troubles?" "Something like that." Jasmine glanced around, then pulled me into an empty meeting room. "Listen, I've been meaning to talk to you. Things are changing around here, and not for the better." "You've noticed." "Hard not to." She lowered her voice. "Derek's been meeting with Nexus executives after hours, bringing in consultants to evaluate our IP, classic pre-acquisition moves." "I know," I admitted. "I'm trying to figure out how to stop it." Jasmine studied me, her expression grave. "Be careful, Remington. Corporate warfare gets ugly fast, especially when family is involved." "I don't have a choice. He's trying to steal my work." "There are always choices." She hesitated. "Whatever you're planning, Make sure the collateral damage is worth it. Her words hit uncomfortably close to Diego's warning. Was I being reckless? Was my hurt clouding my judgment? I appreciate the concern, I said, but I know what I'm doing. Jasmine didn't look convinced. Just remember that companies can be rebuilt. Relationships are harder to fix. As she left, my phone buzzed with a text from Lindsay. Found something big. Meeting tonight? I replied immediately. My place, 8 p.m. Whatever Jasmine thought about collateral damage, it was too late to turn back. Derek had made his choice when he decided to betray me, professionally and personally. Now I would make mine. The company might have been our shared dream once, but Project Artemis was mine alone, and I would burn everything to the ground before I let him take it from me. My apartment felt different with Lindsay in it. Professional, poised Lindsay with her perfect bun and crisp blazer, perched on my couch surrounded by takeout containers and my scattered notes. The incongruity almost made me laugh. These are the final acquisition terms, she said, sliding a folder across my coffee table. Derek received them yesterday. They're planning to announce next month, right after the board restructuring. I flipped through the documents, each page making my blood run colder. The terms were worse than I'd imagined. Nexus would absorb our company, keeping our technology but dismantling most of our team. Derek would join their executive board. April would head their new marketing division. And me? I'd be offered a senior developer position, a glorified coding monkey with no decision-making power. There's more, Lindsay said, pulling out her tablet. Emails between Derek and the Nexus CEO going back 6 months. They've been planning this since before he even started dating April. I scrolled through the correspondence, my hands shaking with rage. In one email, Derek casually mentioned managing my sister's expectations and limiting her access to key IP documentation. He's been playing me this entire time, I whispered. There's something else you should see. Lindsay hesitated. It's about April. She pulled up another email chain, this one between Derek and April, dating back to before they were supposedly together. The subject line read, Project Remington. My stomach lurched as I read April's words. She suspects nothing, still thinks I'm just being supportive of my career change. When should we tell her about us? Derek's response, not until everything's in place. She trusts you more than anyone. We need to use that. The room seemed to tilt around me. This wasn't just an affair that had happened organically. This was calculated. They had deliberately deceived me, used my trust in April to distract me while Derek positioned himself to take control of the company. I'm sorry, Lindsay said quietly. I thought you should know the full picture. I set down the tablet, suddenly exhausted. Why are you helping me? This could cost you your job, your career. Lindsay's professional mask slipped, revealing something harder underneath. 3 years ago, I developed a workflow management system that saved the company millions in operational costs. Derek took credit for it at the board meeting. When I confronted him, he said no one would believe an executive assistant could create something so valuable. The bitterness in her voice resonated with my own. Another woman whose work had been stolen by my brother. We need to stop him, I said. How? He controls the board votes. He's already filing the patent reassignments. And now with April. Her name tasted bitter on my tongue. I need to talk to her. Is that wise? After what you just read? I need to hear it from her. I stood up, suddenly restless. I need to look her in the eye when she lies to me again. My phone rang, interrupting us. Diego's name flashed on the screen. I should take this, I told Lindsay, stepping into my bedroom for privacy. It's almost midnight, I said by way of greeting. I just left a dinner with Norman, Diego replied, his voice tight with urgency. Remington, they're moving faster than you think. The board meeting's been moved up to next week. My heart raced. That's not possible. It's scheduled for the end of the month. Emergency session. Derek's claiming there's a time-sensitive acquisition opportunity that can't wait. Shit. I pressed my forehead against the cool window glass. I need more time. Whatever you're planning, you need to accelerate it. Diego paused. I might be able to help. Why would you help me? Because what Derek's doing is wrong. And because... He hesitated. Because I respect you, Remington. As a competitor, as an innovator. The industry needs people like you building things, not being sidelined by corporate politics. His words warmed something in me that had been cold for days. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Just tell me what you need. I thought for a moment. Access to the Artemis source code repository. Derek's locked me out, but I need to prove it's my work. I know someone at your cloud provider. Give me 24 hours. After we hung up, I returned to find Lindsay organizing the documents into neat piles. I've been thinking, she said without looking up. The emails alone aren't enough. We need something more concrete to stop the acquisition. Like what? Like proof that Derek has been deliberately misrepresenting the company's value to Nexus. She finally met my eyes, and I think I know where to find it. Before she could elaborate, my phone buzzed with a text. April, we need to talk. I know you're angry, but please. Tomorrow morning, our usual place. Our usual place. The cafe where we'd spent countless Sunday mornings dissecting our lives over pastries and coffee. The thought of sitting across from her now, knowing what I knew, made me physically ill. But Lindsay was right. Emails weren't enough. I needed more, and April might be my best source of information, especially if she didn't realize what I knew. 9 a.m., I texted back. I'm meeting April tomorrow, I told Lindsay. After that, we move on whatever you've found. She nodded, gathering her things. At the door, she paused. Be careful tomorrow. Remember who she's really loyal to. After she left, I returned to the window, staring out at the city lights. The April I thought I knew, my best friend, my sister in everything but blood, had never existed. She'd been playing a role, manipulating me while she and Derek plotted behind my back. Tomorrow, I would play a role too, the hurt, betrayed friend willing to listen, the sister who might be persuaded to cooperate. But inside, something had hardened beyond repair. The last threads of familial loyalty, of friendship, of trust, all severed by the evidence Lindsay had brought. Now there was only the cold clarity of purpose, to take back what was mine, no matter the cost. Café Soleil hadn't changed. Same mismatched vintage chairs, same chalkboard menu, same barista with the sleeve tattoos who knew our orders by heart. April was already there, occupying our usual corner table by the window, 2 steaming mugs waiting. For a disorienting moment, muscle memory almost took over, the urge to slide into my seat with a dramatic sigh and launch into whatever crisis was consuming my week. How many Sunday mornings had we spent exactly like this? How many secrets had we shared across this scratched wooden table? But that was before. Before I knew those confidences had been weaponized against me. You came, April said, relief washing over her face. She looked tired, the kind of bone-deep exhaustion that makeup couldn't quite conceal. I came, I agreed, sitting down. My coffee was exactly how I liked it. Oat milk, no sugar. The familiarity felt like a slap. Thank you. She reached for my hand. I pulled back before she could touch me. Her smile faltered. I've missed you. Have you? I kept my voice neutral, remembering my purpose. Information, not confrontation. Not yet. Of course I have. Her eyes welled up. These past few days have been awful. I hate that I hurt you. I took a sip of coffee to avoid responding. If I spoke now, I'd say things I couldn't take back. I know you feel betrayed, she continued, but I need you to understand. What Derek and I have is real. It wasn't planned. The lie hung between us. I thought of the emails Lindsay had shown me. She suspects nothing. We need to use that. When did it start? I asked, the same question I'd asked before, now loaded with new meaning. April shifted uncomfortably. I told you 3 months ago. And the CMO position, was that part of the package deal? Her cheeks flushed. That's not fair. I've worked hard to build my marketing expertise. Your travel blog has 12,000 followers, April. That doesn't qualify you to be a C-suite executive at a billion-dollar tech company. There's more to my background than you give me credit for, she snapped, then immediately softened. I'm sorry. I didn't come here to fight. Why did you come here? She took a deep breath. Derek's worried about you, about what you might do. What I might do? I raised an eyebrow. What exactly does my brother think I'm capable of? He thinks you might try to block the acquisition. She lowered her voice. He knows you met with Lindsay. My blood ran cold. How could he know that? Unless Lindsay came to you, I realized aloud. This was a setup. April's expression confirmed it before she could deny it. She was concerned about your state of mind. She said you were talking about destroying the company rather than letting it be acquired. And you believed her? I laughed, a hollow sound that drew glances from nearby tables. I don't know what to believe anymore. April looked genuinely distressed. You've disappeared for days. You're meeting with Diego. Yes, we know about that too. And now you're conspiring with staff members. Conspiring. The word tasted bitter. Is that what Derek calls it when people compare notes about how he's screwed them over? He's trying to do what's best for the company. No, he's trying to do what's best for Derek. I leaned forward. Did he tell you what happens to our team after the acquisition? Did he mention that most of them lose their jobs while he gets a cushy board seat? Uncertainty flickered across her face. There will be some restructuring, but... Restructuring. I cut her off. Corporate speak for destroying people's livelihoods. The developers who've worked 80-hour weeks to build our platform? Gone. The designers who've poured their creativity into our products? Replaced. But you and Derek will be just fine, won't you? It's not that simple, she protested. It never is with him. I stood up, unable to maintain the charade any longer. Tell my brother that if he wants to discuss the company's future, he can talk to me directly instead of sending his fiancée to do his dirty work. April grabbed my wrist. Rem, please, don't do anything you'll regret. The genuine concern in her voice almost broke me. Almost. Like trusting my best friend? I pulled away. That ship has sailed. Outside, the fog had lifted, leaving the morning unnaturally bright. I walked blindly for several blocks before my phone buzzed. Lindsay told April about our meeting. Can't trust her. Diego, I typed back. Already figured that out. Now what? His response came immediately. Got access to the code repository. Meet me at my office in an hour. I flagged down a taxi, my mind racing. Lindsay's betrayal complicated things, but it also clarified them. The circle of people I could trust had narrowed to possibly just one person. Diego, a competitor who had no reason to help me except principle. Diego's office occupied the top floor of a converted warehouse in Soma. Unlike McDonald Tech's sleek corporate aesthetic, Rivera Innovations embraced an industrial vibe. Exposed brick, vintage machinery repurposed as art, developers working at standing desks made from reclaimed wood. Thanks for coming, Diego said, ushering me into his private office. I wasn't sure you would after finding out Lindsay's working for Derek, I finished. Not much surprises me anymore. I'm sorry. He gestured to a chair. For what it's worth, I think she was playing both sides. Feeding information to Derek while helping you just enough to seem credible. Classic double agent. I sank into the chair. What did you find in the repository? Diego turned his monitor toward me. The original Artemis code, with your digital signature on every comet. Proof that you're the primary architect. Relief washed over me. That's something, at least. There's more. He pulled up another screen. I found communications between Derek and Nexus discussing how to restructure the patent applications to minimize your contribution. Can we use this to block the acquisition? Diego hesitated. Legally, it's complicated, but there's another option. He leaned forward. What if you weren't trying to block the acquisition, but negotiate a better position for yourself? What do you mean? Nexus wants Artemis. You built Artemis. Why not approach them directly? Cut Derek out of the equation. The suggestion stunned me. Go behind my brother's back to the company that's trying to acquire us? He went behind yours first, Diego pointed out, and I happen to know the Nexus CEO is having second thoughts about Derek's leadership. There have been whispers about his management style. I considered the idea, turning it over in my mind. It was ruthless. It was exactly what Derek would do. I'd need leverage, I said slowly. Something more than just proof I wrote the code. Diego's expression turned serious. What if I told you I found evidence that Derek has been artificially inflating company metrics to drive up the acquisition price? The kind of evidence that could trigger an SEC investigation. My heart raced. This wasn't just corporate maneuvering anymore. This was potentially criminal. Show me, I demanded. As Diego pulled up the files, my phone buzzed with a text from Derek. Board meeting moved to tomorrow. Final vote on acquisition. We need to talk tonight. My place, 8 p.m. The countdown had begun. By this time tomorrow, everything would be decided, one way or another. I'll need copies of everything, I told Diego, a cold determination settling over me. And I'll need your help with one more thing. Derek's penthouse always felt more like a showroom than a home. Minimalist furniture arranged at precise angles, art selected for investment value rather than personal taste, a kitchen that looked like it had never seen a home-cooked meal. Tonight, with floor-to-ceiling windows framing the glittering city below, it felt like the perfect stage for our final act. Scotch? Derek offered, already pouring 2 glasses without waiting for my answer. Why not? I accepted the crystal tumbler, noting the brand, the same expensive label he'd been drinking since his first big bonus check. Some things never changed. You look better, he said, assessing me with that calculating gaze. More like yourself. Amazing what a little clarity will do. I took a small sip, needing my wits intact. The flash drive Diego had given me felt heavy in my pocket. Derek settled into his designer armchair, the city lights creating a halo effect behind him. Always positioning himself for maximum impact, a habit since childhood. I'm glad you came, he said. Tomorrow's board meeting is important. I need to know you're with me. The acquisition vote. I kept my voice neutral. It's happening that quickly? Nexus is eager to close. The terms are excellent. He leaned forward. 3 times our valuation, Rem. We'd both walk away with enough money to do whatever we want for the rest of our lives. Except I wouldn't be walking away with control of my own creation. He sighed, the put-upon sound he made when he thought someone was being unreasonable. Artemis is company property. You built it while employed by McDonald Tech, a company I co-founded, I reminded him, a company where I'm supposed to have equal say in major decisions. Equal say doesn't mean veto power. His tone hardened slightly. The board will vote in favor, I've made sure of it. By stacking it with your allies. I set my glass down. By manipulating the numbers to inflate our valuation. Derek's expression didn't change, but his fingers tightened almost imperceptibly around his glass. I don't know what you're talking about. The user growth projections you presented to Nexus. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to the documents Diego had found. 40% month-over-month growth? We both know that's fiction. Projections are always optimistic, he dismissed. It's how the game is played. This isn't a projection, it's fraud. I looked up from my phone, and I have proof you knew the real numbers when you presented these. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across his face. Where did you get that? Does it matter? I have it. And so will the SEC if this acquisition goes through under false pretenses. The room fell silent except for the faint hum of the city below. Derek set his glass down carefully, his movements deliberate. What do you want, Remington? What's rightfully mine? Full credit for Artemis, a seat on the Nexus board, and severance packages for our entire development team. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Or what? You'll report me to the SEC, destroy both our reputations, burn down everything we've built? If I have to. You wouldn't. His confidence returned. You care too much about the company, about the people who work for us. That's the difference between us, Derek. I stood up, moving to the window. I do care about them. Enough to make sure they're protected when you sell them out. This is about April, isn't it? His voice softened with false sympathy. I know you feel betrayed. This isn't about April. I turned to face him. This is about you systematically undermining me from the moment we founded this company, taking credit for my work, making decisions behind my back, using my best friend to distract me while you plotted to cut me out. Derek's expression hardened. You're being dramatic. Am I? I pulled the flash drive from my pocket. I have the emails, Derek. Between you and April. Project Remington, remember? Your little scheme to keep me distracted while you set up the acquisition. The color drained from his face. How did you... It doesn't matter. I tossed the flash drive onto the coffee table between us. What matters is that I have everything. The emails, the falsified projections, the backdated patent applications. He stared at the flash drive, then back at me. Calculation replacing shock. What's your play here? Blackmail? I prefer to call it negotiation. I returned to my seat, meeting his gaze steadily. I've already spoken with Jasmine. She's prepared to testify about the real user numbers if needed. Jasmine works for me, he said automatically. She works for the company, our company. and unlike you, she has ethics. Derek stood abruptly, pacing to the bar to refill his glass. I could almost see the gears turning as he reassessed his position. "Let's say I agree to your terms," he finally said. "How do I know you won't go to the SEC anyway?" "Because unlike you, when I make a deal, I honor it." The words tasted bitter. "Something I thought you understood before all this." He turned to face me, and for a moment I glimpsed something like regret in his eyes. "It wasn't personal, Rem. It was business. It became personal when you used April against me." I stood up. "When you decided our relationship meant nothing compared to your ambition." "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" I moved toward the door. "The board meets at 9 tomorrow. I'll be there with my attorney. Either we announce my terms as part of the acquisition, or I release everything I have to Nexus and the SEC." "You'd really do that?" For the first time, he sounded uncertain. "Destroy your own brother?" I paused at the door, the weight of the moment pressing on me. This was my brother, the boy who'd taught me to code, who'd stayed up all night helping me debug my first program, who'd believed in me when no one else did. But that brother was gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized. "You destroyed us first," I said quietly. "Tomorrow, I'm just making it official." As the elevator doors closed behind me, my phone buzzed with a text from Diego. "Everything set for tomorrow. No turning back now." I leaned against the elevator wall, exhaustion and resolve washing over me in equal measure. Diego was right. There was no turning back. Tomorrow would change everything: my company, my relationships, my future. But for the first time in weeks, I felt something like peace. Whatever happened next, I would face it on my terms, not Derek's. The McDonald Tech boardroom felt smaller than I remembered, despite its wall of windows and gleaming 20-foot table. Maybe it was the tension compressing the air, or maybe it was the way everyone avoided eye contact as I entered. Everyone except Derek, who watched me with the wary focus of a chess player who'd just realized his queen was vulnerable. I took my seat directly across from him, placing my laptop and a manila folder on the table. My attorney, a razor-sharp woman Diego had recommended, sat beside me. Across the room, April hovered near the refreshment table, uncertainty written across her face. "Shall we begin?" Derek's voice carried its usual confident authority, but I caught the slight tension around his eyes. He hadn't slept either. The board chair nodded, calling the meeting to order. 7 people who would decide the fate of everything I'd built. 4 of them were firmly in Derek's pocket. 2 could swing either way. And then there was Norman, our CFO, whose expression revealed nothing. "As you all know, we're here to vote on the proposed acquisition by Nexus Technologies," the chair began. "Derek will present the terms, and then we'll open the floor for discussion before voting." Derek stood, buttoning his suit jacket, a gesture he always made before important presentations. "The offer from Nexus represents an unprecedented opportunity for McDonald Tech, 3 times our current valuation, with significant retention packages for key personnel." As he continued outlining the deal, I watched the board members' reactions. Most nodded along, already convinced. This was supposed to be a formality. Before we proceed to discussion, I interrupted when Derek finished, "I'd like to present some additional information relevant to this decision." Derek's jaw tightened. "We have a full agenda, Remington. Perhaps your concerns can be addressed during the discussion period." "My concerns involve potentially fraudulent representations made to Nexus regarding our user metrics and growth projections," I said calmly. "I believe the board should have this information before any vote." The room went silent. The board chair glanced between Derek and me, then nodded. "Proceed, Ms. McDonald." I opened my laptop, connecting it to the room's display system. These are the user growth projections presented to Nexus during acquisition talks. I brought up the first document, and these are our actual numbers from the same period. Murmurs rippled through the room as the discrepancy became clear. "Furthermore," I continued, "I have evidence that the patent applications for Project Artemis were deliberately manipulated to minimize my contribution as the primary architect." Derek's face had gone rigid. "These are serious allegations that should be discussed privately, not in a board meeting." "I disagree," I replied. "The board is voting on an acquisition based on information that isn't accurate. They deserve to know the truth." Norman leaned forward. "If these discrepancies are real, we could face significant liability." "They're not real," Derek insisted. "My sister is understandably emotional about changes in the company and her personal life. These claims are baseless. Are they? I pulled a USB drive from my pocket, not the one I'd shown Derek last night, but a different one. This contains emails between Derek and the Nexus CEO discussing how to structure the deal to specifically limit my role post-acquisition, despite my position as co-founder and the primary creator of our core technology. The board chair accepted the drive, his expression grave. We'll need time to review this material before proceeding with any vote. There's no need, Derek said, his voice hardening. I can explain everything. I'm sure you can, I agreed. You've always been excellent at explanations, but the numbers don't lie, and neither do your own words in those emails. I turned to address the entire board. I'm not here to block this acquisition. I believe a partnership with Nexus could be valuable if structured properly, but I won't stand by while the company I co-founded is sold under false pretenses, with the people who built it left vulnerable. What exactly are you proposing? Asked one of the board members, a venture capitalist who'd previously supported every one of Derek's initiatives. A restructured deal, one that accurately represents our metrics, properly credits the creators of our technology, and provides genuine protection for our team. I glanced at Derek, and one that acknowledges both founders equally in the transition. The room fell silent again, all eyes moving between Derek and me. Perhaps, the board chair suggested carefully, the siblings should step out while the board discusses these developments. In the hallway, Derek rounded on me. What the hell are you doing? You're going to tank this entire deal. No, I'm fixing it, I replied. Nexus still wants Artemis. They just need to know who really built it and what it's actually worth. This is about your ego, he hissed. You couldn't stand that I was the one who made this deal happen. This is about the truth, I corrected. Something you seem to have forgotten the value of. A movement caught my eye. April, standing a few feet away, her expression stricken. Is it true? She asked Derek. Did you falsify the numbers? Derek's face softened immediately. April, it's complicated. Business negotiations always involve some yes or no, she pressed. His hesitation was answer enough. She turned to me, tears welling in her eyes. And the emails about me? About using me to distract you? You should ask him, I said quietly. Before Derek could respond, the boardroom door opened. We'd like you both back inside, the chair announced. What followed was the most extraordinary 2 hours of my professional life. The board, having reviewed enough of the evidence to understand its implications, postponed the acquisition vote. Instead, they established an independent committee to verify the company's metrics and restructure the deal terms. And in a move that left Derek white-faced with shock, they voted to temporarily separate the roles of CEO and chairman, appointing me as interim CEO while the acquisition process was reviewed. This isn't over, Derek muttered as the meeting adjourned. You're right, I agreed. It's just beginning. Later, as I packed up my laptop, Norman approached. I knew something wasn't right with those projections, he admitted. I should have said something sooner. We all should have questioned more, I replied. As the room emptied, only April remained, lingering by the door. I didn't know, she said softly. About the emails, the planning. I knew he wanted to keep our relationship quiet, but I never thought... It doesn't matter now, I said, surprised to find I meant it. The anger that had fueled me for weeks had burned down to embers, leaving behind clarity rather than rage. What happens next? She asked. I shouldered my bag, looking around the boardroom, the space where I'd just reclaimed my power, my creation, my voice. I build something new, I said, something that's truly mine this time. As I walked out of McDonald Tech that evening, Diego was waiting in the lobby, a question in his eyes. It's done, I told him. Not how I expected, but done. And Derek? We'll survive, probably even thrive eventually. I shrugged, but not by standing on my shoulders anymore. Diego smiled. So what now, CEO McDonald? I looked out at the city, feeling lighter than I had in months. The path ahead wasn't clear yet, but for the first time in years, it was truly mine to choose. Now I stop living in anyone's shadow, I said, stepping into the sunlight, including my own.